Picture this, a young guy with spiky blue hair, determination blazing in his eyes. Sword in hand, he's clutching this radiant blue gem, as if it's his secret weapon against destiny. He's staring right at us. No, not us. At someone in the distance. "I'll stop my sister, Ceres," he declares. Oh yeah, he's not playing. Behind him, his crew stands, grim-faced and ready. He's not alone in this mission, but there's a weight on his shoulders only he seems to bear. Cut to the capital, this place is alive. People are out in droves, celebrating like it's the last party on Earth. And what's got them so hyped? A girl. Not just any girl, mind you, a 14-year-old who's about to marry the crown prince. The crowd is starry-eyed, chanting her name like she's a goddess descended from the heavens. They're under a spell, and Ceres is the enchantress. She's barely a teenager, yet she's got this city wrapped around her little finger. And then, there she is. Ceres herself, golden hair cascading like she just walked off a movie set, eyes sharp with ambition. She's smirking, fingers poised in a gesture that screams, "Bow down." Her words, "I will make myself everyone's queen." She's not asking, she's declaring. This isn't a girl playing dress-up. This is someone who sees a throne and knows it's hers by right or by conquest. The crowd? They're eating it up. "Please, lead us," they cry. "Kill them all," they cheer. Yep, that's right, these folks are ready to follow her into madness. Ceres, barely keeping a straight face, casually muses about war. Lyle, hidden in the crowd, can't believe what he's seeing. He's horrified, realizing his sister has not only stolen hearts but possibly their sanity. "This is madness," he mutters, eyes wide with disbelief. Ceres has them cheering for a bloodbath, and she's not even breaking a sweat. We pull back, seeing Lyle ready for battle. Sword in hand, jaw set, he's steeling himself to face the sister who has become his ultimate adversary. In the background, his allies form a lineup of determined warriors. This is no ordinary sibling spat, this is the ultimate showdown. And they're all in. Now, rewind. Just 1 year back, and we see a young Ceres making her pitch to the family. She stands in front of a grand palace, rapier in hand, and throws down the gauntlet. "I want to compete with my older brother for the head of the Walt family." She's not content being just another noble. She wants it all. And what do her parents do? They practically clap in approval, thrilled to watch their kids battle it out for supremacy. Ah, family. And here's Lyle, looking like he just got hit by a revelation. No, make that a truck. Shocked, he watches his sister's ambition unfold, the sunlight hitting him like a spotlight of truth. All his confidence, his belief in his own talent, everything. It's crumbling in front of him as he realizes just how far behind he really is. Back to the present, and Lyle's finally got a moment to catch his breath. "My name is Lyle Walt," he pants, introducing himself almost as if reminding himself who he used to be. He was once the golden child, the prodigy everyone looked up to, until Ceres stepped in and turned his world upside down. His little sister didn't just challenge him, she outclassed him. Now Ceres steps up, towering above, sword pointed with a confidence that borders on arrogance. Her eyes flash with a sharp edge, and every inch of her screams, "I'm better than you." It's like she's taunting him without even saying a word. This isn't the sister he grew up with. This is a conqueror with her sights set on total victory. She looks down at him, her smirk cutting deeper than any insult. "You swing that sword every day like a fool," she says, voice dripping with disdain. "And you still can't match up to a 13-year-old girl." The words sting. Lyle's jaw clenches, fists tightening. This isn't just a fight anymore, it's a battle for his very soul. A clash that could decide the fate of the entire Walt family. And there you have it, folks. Lyle and Ceres, two siblings on a collision course. One fights for redemption, the other for domination. The question is, can Lyle rise up and reclaim his honor? Or is Ceres' ruthless ambition going to crush him and anyone who stands in her way? Stay tuned, because this sibling rivalry just got real. We're standing in front of the Grand Walt Mansion, a symbol of 250 years of power, wealth, and apparently family drama. Lyle, bruised but unbroken, stares down his sister. "As a Walt, I carry this legacy too," he says, as if willing himself to believe it. Ceres, unimpressed, smirks. "Hard to believe, coming from you." Enter Dad, with the most intense, disappointed dad stare you've ever seen. He looks at Lyle like he's something the cat dragged in. "Pathetic," he sneers. "A Walt? Looking like this?" Lyle's heart shatters, but Ceres nods in agreement, loving every second. Dad doesn't stop there. "You're no longer a Walt," he says, throwing in the ultimate burn. "I even regret calling you my son." Mom chimes in too, because why let Dad have all the fun? "Why was a failure like you even born?" she wonders aloud, her voice icy. Lyle stares in disbelief. They're all in agreement. He's the family's mistake. Meanwhile, Ceres revels in it, each insult fueling her smug satisfaction. The grand announcement rings out. The successor to the Walt family is Ceres. The girl in question strikes a triumphant pose, rapier gleaming in her hand, as if daring anyone to challenge her claim. Below, Lyle's face is a storm of shock, betrayal, and maybe a hint of resolve? Flashback to little Lyle, looking up to his sister. Ever since she was 8, Ceres was leagues beyond him, surpassing him in every single skill. 5 years later, nothing's changed except now she's got the official title to prove it. Lyle clenches his fist, knowing deep down that he's never even scratched her. Lyle, holding his sword tight, growls, "I know better than anyone that I'm no match for her." Pain flashes in his eyes, a lifetime of being overlooked and cast aside. Since the day everyone saw Ceres' talent, Lyle was forgotten, treated like he was invisible. The servants, the vassals, no one even looks his way anymore. Desperate to prove himself, Lyle agrees to her challenge. He clenches his teeth, gripping his sword, declaring to himself, one more time, he's ready to give it everything he's got, to force this family to see him as more than a shadow. It's not over yet! Lyle leaps towards Ceres, his sword slicing through the air, with a final burst of defiance. His parents' eyes widen, gasping at his sheer nerve. This isn't the Lyle they know, this is someone fighting with every scrap of pride he has left. But Ceres, she's not even fazed. She sidesteps him with a deadly grace, smirking. No matter how many times you try, it'll end the same way. Her confidence is unbreakable, like she's just toying with him at this point. With a flick of her wrist, Ceres effortlessly dodges, her dress flowing like she's part of the wind. Lyle tries to keep up, but she's already a step ahead. Wham! She lands a blow, and he stumbles, clutching his leg. "My leg!" he gasps, realizing he never even stood a chance. Lyle swings his sword, barely keeping up with Ceres' relentless attacks. She's grinning, head tilted in mock thought. Where should I aim next? His face contorts as he braces himself. Coup! Every movement feels like she's playing a twisted game. "Well done, brother," she laughs, as if encouraging a clumsy dance partner. "Come on, more," she taunts, almost daring him to make her break a sweat. "Too fast." Lyle's eyes widen, every instinct screaming at him to defend, but she's already closed the gap. She's a blur, her blade darting around him like a predator toying with its prey. Lyle's desperate slashes meet only air, and each failed attempt digs his frustration deeper. But he's not giving up, not yet. Ceres' smile is chilling, like she's watching the best show of her life. "More," she whispers, eyes glinting with a sadistic gleam. "Dance more skillfully." Her words feel like a whip, lashing his pride. Lyle grits his teeth, pushing his battered body to try and keep up, hoping somehow his clumsy steps can match her deadly waltz. Lyle's breathing hard, looking down at his own shaking hands, dotted with shallow cuts. "They're not fatal, not even close," he mutters, realizing that these wounds are nothing more than scratches to her. Meanwhile, Ceres just watches, that smirk never leaving her face. To her, this is child's play, a sparring session that barely warrants her full effort. "It's fun to ruin you, big brother," Ceres says, voice dripping with amusement. To her, he's nothing more than a scarecrow to practice on. But then a spark of excitement lights in her eyes. Or perhaps, she muses, conjuring a swirling orb of dark energy, like she's just decided to up the stakes in their one-sided game. "You'll entertain me a little more?" Lyle's eyes widen as Ceres raises her hand, launching a swirling mass of dark energy his way. "Ice wall!" he yells, summoning a jagged shield of frost to block her assault. But Ceres only smiles wider. "Fire bullet!" she calls, unleashing an attack that blazes straight toward him, piercing his icy defenses like they're paper. Her power, her control, it's terrifying. And with that, the battle is set to continue. The story plunges deeper into darkness as Ceres unleashes a relentless barrage of magical fire bullets, each one crackling with menacing energy. Lyle, barely holding his ground, braces behind an ice wall he desperately conjures, but the impact shatters his defenses like fragile glass. The sheer force throws him back, leaving him stunned and battered. Through gritted teeth, Lyle mutters incredulously, This was just supposed to be a small fireball, right? But each hit feels like a sledgehammer, not the tiny spark he expected. He's reaching his limit, his body screaming with exhaustion. Ceres, however, is entirely unfazed, her eyes gleaming with an almost sinister glee as she conjures even more fire bullets. Now levitating around her in a display of absolute control, she taunts, "Oh, are you barely hanging on? How long do you think you'll last this time?" As Lyle tries to gather himself, he can't help but wonder where her power comes from. Why his sister no? This force of nature is toying with him like this. His mind races. Is she using some kind of enhancement? Or is she just that much stronger than him? Desperation sets in. Lyle gathers his resolve, rising once more. "I've spent 5 years training for this," he pants, sword trembling in his grip. Hundreds of thousands of swings, and still, Ceres just laughs, almost bored, yet thoroughly amused. "Oh my god," she sneers. "You're so lame." Her words cut deeper than any blade, And as Lyle's grip falters, he's left questioning everything: his training, his worth, even their bond as siblings. Did I mess up somewhere? He wonders, heart sinking. Why are you doing this, Ceres? Do you really hate me that much? Her response is cold, absolute. I do hate you, more than anyone else in this world. The revelation hits harder than any attack, and Lyle's spirit begins to break. He realizes he isn't just fighting for his life, he's battling for a place in her heart, a battle he might never win. Ceres, with a face of pure apathy, muses, "Why? Come to think of it, I forgot why I started hating you." She shrugs it off with a dismissive, "Well, who cares?" Her tone is utterly casual, almost mocking, but then her gaze sharpens as she finishes with cold finality. "I'm sick of seeing your face. Can't you just disappear already?" Lyle's face hardens, his eyes brimming with determination. His mind races with thoughts of what he must do. This is it. He needs just one chance to land a blow. He's fully focused, eyes wide with killing intent. Ceres' sharp stare meets his, equally ready to counter whatever he throws at her. They clash, the ground beneath them shaking from the intensity of their battle. Lyle grits his teeth, pushing himself to get close just once, desperate to make a single hit count. Charging forward, Lyle lunges with everything he's got, shouting, "What do you think of this?" But Ceres' expression barely changes. She's already calculating her next move. His attack lands, or does it? A split second later, it's clear that his strike was far from enough to break through her defense. Undeterred, Lyle draws closer, muttering to himself, then one step closer. Every fiber of his being is focused, his face a mask of determination. One more swing, and he lunges forward, their blades about to clash in a single high-stakes gamble. Finally, Lyle's attack seems to land. Ceres looks slightly taken aback, perhaps the first hint of surprise we've seen. It landed, Lyle thinks, his face lit with a mix of surprise and triumph. But just as quickly, the scene reveals it was only a shallow hit. Ceres looks unfazed, practically rolling her eyes at the attempt. Standing tall, Ceres barely even acknowledges Lyle's attack, twirling her weapon dismissively. She scoffs, "You got carried away and touched me." Her condescending expression deepens as she adds, "Now you can just disappear for real." Her gaze darkens as she summons flames, declaring with finality, "Burn to ash right this instant." The place explodes with Ceres' power, an intense firestorm swirling up from her outstretched hand. Lyle braces himself, his wide eyes filled with panic. His ice wall barely forms in time as the firestorm twists and lashes out around him, an overwhelming wave of heat and destruction that towers over him like a force of nature. Through sheer willpower, Lyle's ice wall manages to hold against the inferno. He pants heavily, sweat pouring down his face as he steadies himself. Is this where it all ends? He wonders, despair flickering across his face. His mana is running low, and his exhausted expression shows he's reaching his limits. Ceres watches him coolly, savoring every moment of his struggle. Despite his ice wall still holding, it's clear Lyle is close to breaking. His breathing is ragged, every "ha" a testament to how hard he's been pushing himself. Meanwhile, Ceres smirks, her posture relaxed, showing no signs of fatigue. It's almost as if she's mocking him without even trying. Lyle lies defeated on the ground, his face bearing a weary and despairing look. He questions his existence with haunting thoughts. Why was I born? He seems broken, his spirit visibly shattered. Rising amidst the rubble, Lyle finds himself in a vulnerable stance, isolated within a remnant of his ice wall as Ceres stands unfazed in the distance. We see Lyle reach for his sword, almost instinctively, but Ceres watches him with an icy expression, silently commanding, "Don't touch it." Her gaze is unyielding, filled with something between pity and disdain. Ceres picks up Lyle's worn-out sword, inspecting it with a smirk. She taunts him, recognizing its significance. "You treasure it, don't you? It's already falling apart. It must be really important to you." Lyle, lying on the ground, looks on with panic and desperation as Ceres raises the weapon, dismissively adding, "However, you don't need it anymore." She begins to toss it away, almost as if discarding a useless trinket, shattering another piece of his pride. In a theatrical and cruel display, Ceres raises her own sword, a much more elegant weapon, in a proud stance, as if mocking the simplicity of Lyle's saber. With a flash and a swift movement, she brings her sword down. The worn saber, Lyle's prized possession, shatters to pieces. It's a cold, calculated blow to his spirit as the fragments scatter across the ground. The memories flood back Lyle as a young boy, standing proudly with the very sword his father presented to him. His father's proud voice echoes, "Yes, my Lyle, that looks good on you, as expected of my son." A young, eager Lyle beams with pride as his family looks on approvingly. "Amazing, isn't it?" he says, as his father reassures him that one day he'll use it to fulfill his duties. His mother's voice echoes softly, "Geez, dear, you're spoiling Lyle," while his father playfully defends his affection. This nostalgic moment captures the warmth and pride of a family, juxtaposed against the grim reality Lyle faces now. The present returns with Ceres dismissively addressing Lyle, disregarding the significance of his shattered weapon. She adds, "Lyle, as a man of House Walt, you should carry a top-grade weapon," demeaning him further. Ceres' cold demeanor and arrogance paint her as both elegant and ruthlessly indifferent to Lyle's struggles. "For now, be sure to polish yourself as to match the excellence of that sword, all right?" his father had said. But now, lying in the dust, the truth seared through him with a clarity as sharp as any blade. No matter how hard he fought, no matter how much he sacrificed, it would never be enough. "I can't win. It doesn't matter anymore," he thought, his heart breaking with each word. "No matter how hard I work, I'll never be recognized." He watched as Ceres, the sister who had always overshadowed him, turned her back and walked away. Their parents, standing nearby, looked upon him with barely concealed disdain. His mother, voice devoid of warmth, sighed, "We need to buy her a new dress. This one got dirty." His father nodded, his tone dismissive. "And with this, Ceres is now our only child." Lyle's heart shattered anew, each word cutting him deeper than any wound. They didn't just abandon him, they erased him. In their eyes, he had never existed. His lips trembled as he whispered to himself, "Was I that much of a nuisance to you all? Are you really that happy I'm gone?" Tears blurred his vision, hot and bitter, as he finally resigned himself to his fate. "So this is how I die." Darkness closed in around him, swallowing him whole. But within that void, a faint glimmer began to flicker. Strange lights floated around him, whispering, "Oi?" One light pulsed, murmuring, "He's nearby." The others responded, "Yes, he's far, but he's there. A blood relative." The voices grew, swirling around him, their presence warm and unfamiliar, yet oddly comforting. Lyle, barely conscious, felt their presence wash over him, a strange sensation amidst his agony. And then, as if summoned by his despair, they appeared faces he had never seen. Strangers who felt strangely familiar, like fragments of a long-forgotten dream. He could feel their strength, their resilience, each of them radiating a fierce determination. He took a shaky breath. "When I had lost everything," he thought, "when I was lost in the depths of despair, I met those people." The shadows gathered around him, lending him a spark of strength he thought had vanished. In that moment, as he lay on the edge of oblivion, Lyle felt a flicker of purpose reignite within him. Perhaps, just perhaps, this wasn't the end. At the Fuchs family mansion, the atmosphere was solemn. News had arrived, a message both grave and final. Novem stood silently, taking in the words of a servant. Lyle, Lord of House Walt, had been disinherited and banished. The announcement felt like a cold, cutting wind, but her composed demeanor betrayed no emotion. Not only had he lost his title, but their engagement had also been officially annulled. She closed her eyes for a moment, processing the gravity of the news. The servant who delivered the message waited nervously, expecting a reaction, but Novem merely nodded. She turned to her father, who observed her with a mixture of respect and pride. "Oh, is that so?" she replied calmly, almost as if she had anticipated this all along. Her father, admiring her composure, chuckled lightly. "You've always had an understanding far beyond your years." His words carried a hint of sorrow but also relief, as though seeing her strength gave him peace. He handed her a cane, an heirloom of the Fuchs family. "Take this with you," he instructed, aware that her path would likely become more treacherous. Novem accepted it gracefully, understanding its significance. Her father explained that the cane would serve as an excuse if the Walts grew suspicious of their family's continued support. They both knew that this act of kindness could bring trouble upon the Fuchs family, yet Novem was resolute. "It will be enough if you simply turn a blind eye," she told her father, her loyalty to Lyle unwavering. Her father smiled sadly, acknowledging her resolve. "Even if you face me as an enemy one day, Novem, I know you won't shed a single tear." He watched as she turned and left, stepping into an uncertain future, her purpose now set in stone. Lyle sat with Grandpa Zell, his mind swirling with thoughts of guilt and self-doubt. He was sure his grandfather, if alive, would be disappointed in his failures. Even grandfather would have given up on his pathetic grandson by now, he muttered, head bowed in despair. Grandpa Zell, with a gentle expression, responded softly, "Don't blame yourself too much. The previous head would have understood your plight." As Lyle wrestled with his emotions, he clenched his blanket, his uncertainty gnawing at him. Grandpa Zell reassured him. "If he were still alive, the master would have protected you. I'm sure of it." Lyle could only hope that were true, though the absence of guidance left him directionless and uncertain of his next steps. That night, as he lay in bed, Lyle watched Grandpa Zell sleep uncomfortably in a chair nearby, his back curved in an awkward position. A pang of realization struck him. He had been a burden to this kind old man who had cared for him through everything. I can't believe it took me this long to realize just how much of a burden I've been on him, he thought bitterly, burying his face in the pillow, feeling utterly humiliated. As he lay, emotions swirling, he began to hear voices indignant, disappointed voices echoing in his head. I don't understand how a wimp like this could ever be related to me, one voice scoffed, dripping with disdain. Another chimed in. It's seriously pathetic. These voices of his ancestors, filled him with shame and anger, their judgments tearing at him. Is this guy really my descendant? Another mocked, each word cutting deeper than the last. But just as he felt himself drowning in the onslaught, a more rational voice interrupted the chaos, urging the others to calm down. All right, you two, calm down already. Take a look at Lyle. He's in pain. Slowly, the barrage of voices quieted, leaving Lyle in a state of exhausted relief. The next morning, Lyle and Grandpa Zell shared a simple meal. The food, humble but hearty, gave Lyle a strange sense of comfort, though he noticed Grandpa Zell watching him closely, worried that perhaps it wasn't to his taste. "Oh no, it's great," Lyle assured him, managing a small smile as he ate. Gathering his courage, Lyle finally voiced his thoughts. "Grandpa Zell, there's something I'd like to discuss with you," he said, looking across the table with a newfound determination. Grandpa Zell's warm eyes encouraged him, urging him to speak freely. Lyle took a deep breath, clenching his fists slightly as he revealed his plan. "The truth is, I'm thinking about becoming an adventurer." Grandpa Zell stroked his chin thoughtfully, his gaze steady. "An adventurer, you say?" he replied, his tone measured but interested. Lyle nodded, explaining, "I don't really want to be one, but it's my only real option for independence. Now that I've been kicked out, I want a fresh start. It's the only way I can think of to stand on my own." Grandpa Zell listened intently, his expression softened with understanding. "Well, that's a surprise," he said with a faint smile. If the previous head heard this, he would probably faint. He wasn't too fond of adventurers, to put it kindly. Lyle chuckled, imagining his strict grandfather's reaction, but there was a hint of sadness in his laughter. "But knowing you as I do," Grandpa Zell continued, placing a steady hand on Lyle's shoulder, "I'm sure you'll keep a good head on your shoulders." Lyle felt a warmth spread through him at the old man's words, his heart lightened by the unexpected encouragement. With a hopeful glint in his eye, Lyle said, "I can make it big if I become a top-class adventurer, right? I'll be able to earn hundreds of gold coins in a single mission." He trailed off, the dream of proving himself filling his heart. Grandpa Zell laughed, a deep, hearty laugh that was rare but always welcome. "Ha! I look forward to that day, young master," he said, his voice full of genuine affection. Lyle couldn't help but smile back, his resolve strengthened. "And when that time comes, I'll be able to pay you back for all your help." In that quiet moment, as they shared a meal and exchanged warm smiles, Lyle felt a bond with Grandpa Zell that he had never felt before. If only I'd gotten closer to him sooner, he thought, a bittersweet feeling welling up within him. He was ready to take the next step, to carve out his own path. For the first time in a long time, he felt a flicker of hope.